Last year, I invited you into a challenge I made for myself, and that is to create something every day for a year. So I created this challenge and I learned quickly that it's more than just a goal to achieve. It is actually just a way of life and changing my lifestyle around the value of creating. Of course, I missed many days. There were sicknesses, vacations, just things that kind of went awry and kind of took away from this everyday goal. But in the end, I look back and I just see a year that's kind of marked by creating and learning and growing, and kind of what that did in me and challenged me and grew me in a way that I wasn't really expecting. You may have heard James Clear say in his book Atomic Habits something along the lines of you kind of change by your identity more than a set of goals. So your habits create who you are more than this goal to achieve. He says in his book that if you're trying to quit smoking, you don't just say, I'm trying to quit smoking. You say, I'm not a smoker. That's not who I am. So for me, I just think through the lens of I am a creative. I'm a creative person. That is what I love to do. That's what brings me joy and fills me up. And so our home is a place that is ready for creativity to happen, and it is where we go to create. I believe having that little small shift in my thinking just made everything kind of naturally happen, and it was less of me just like striving to, okay, I have to create something today to like check it off the list. It just naturally became this thing that I love to do and I love to infuse my days with. You may be thinking creating is just like sewing or finishing an item, but we are a sewing channel here on YouTube. But more than that, creating is creating spaces, painting, baking, cooking. I mean, it encompasses so many things more than just sewing or finishing something. Some examples of things that I made are obviously a lot of clothes because I love to sew, and that is what our channel is all about. So we make sewing patterns and share them with you. And so I did sew a lot and I grew a lot in that area, and I'm really proud of that. And I really see how that was a byproduct of this kind of lifestyle change. I also made a lot of bread. I have also just seen like the consistency and kind of trying new things and continuing to work at that craft. My bread baking skills have drastically improved, and I'm really proud of that, and it's just been a fun outlet to create. This year I also made my first quilt. I have been knitting again for the first time in a long time, and that is a byproduct of this. I created so many meals. I feel like at the end of the day, if you don't make something, if you make a meal or just a bowl of soup or something, I think that counts as creativity. I worked a lot to create the atmosphere of our home as a place that we can gather and be a place of peace and rest, and just a place that we can kind of let ourselves go and relax. So I feel like a home is a great place to kind of practice your creativity and try new things without a lot of pressure, or you can just move things around. There are days where it's just like, I want to take all this stuff off the shelves and I want to put it back in a new way, just a little bit different. And just doing that practice has taught me a lot. Something I love to do is have a small group of people over at our house for a meal, and I love to set the table. I think that's my favorite thing. This is probably because that was my job growing up. When it was time to eat, my mom would invite me to set the table, and I did that all growing up. So I kind of see how that plays into daily life now, and having just small groups of friends come over and having this table for them to gather around is just one of my favorite things. And I love to try new things and use simple things like a drop cloth for the tablecloth or branches for the floral arrangements. It's just fun to play around with and kind of see how it sets the tone of the gathering and conversation, and it's a really enjoyable thing for me. And I'm sure there are other things that I made, but those kind of stand out, and those are some smaller things and practical things that you can do throughout your daily life. And I think inviting my daughter in on a lot of this creating just really bonded us in a different way. It's deepened our relationship. It's gave me more confidence in her and her capabilities. And I know that she's grown in her own confidence in the kitchen and our home. Seeing her able to just sit down and paint is so inspiring to me. One of the main takeaways that I kind of mentioned earlier is how much I've grown. There are some things that I was learning last year for the first time that I've grown a lot more confident in. I've become more acquainted with the idea of just taking my time on a project and not really wondering when the deadline is going to be, and just working within the space that I have and being okay with not finishing until the next week or a couple months, and just taking that time to create something I'm really proud of and not just to finish. Another takeaway that I've had from this year-long journey is I just really enjoy creating things. I love to make things, and I know so many of you do as well. And I would also love to hear what you've created last year, something you're proud of, something you want to share. If you want to comment below, I'd love to hear that. I love that I've even been able to connect with many of you through creating, and just this enjoyment of it has been a huge gift in my life. I've also learned that creating begets creating. So the more you make things, the more you have new ideas, the more you want to try new fabrics or mediums and techniques, and you want to try again and make it better and tweak things. And just when you start kind of like creating as a lifestyle habit, it kind of like is something you can't stop, because you just keep having ideas and the inspiration just keeps coming. So throughout the whole process, I know the years these days are pretty crazy for everyone. Maybe the holidays were crazy for you, or maybe just not what you expected. I think that is true to a lot of people I know, and even in our family we had a lot of sickness and kind of hardships and just things that kind of threw off the rhythm of creating. And I think what stands out to me about that is how much I desired to get back home to our rhythm, to making things. And even in those seasons off, maybe it was a week or more, I was able to use just that downtime to think through projects and ideas. And it always just stirred up in me just this desire to get back and go and to grow even more. And for the final takeaway, I challenged myself to create as early in the morning as possible. So we have a family routine, and maybe between going from one thing to the next, I would pull out my camera and take a photo in a creative way, or just see the light streaming in our house and want to take a photo or a video. And whatever it was, the earlier I created, it kind of set the tone for the rest of the day. I don't know what it is about the mornings, but they're really special to me. And I think that creating earlier in the day, instead of just filling your morning with notifications or work or emails or just noise, and kind of replacing those things with creativity, really makes a difference for the rest of the day. So maybe this year you are going to kind of take on this challenge to create for yourself every day. And so I wanted to share a few things that kind of helped. They're really small, but they might help you along the way. If you saw my video from last year, my goal was to take photos every day, and then at the end of the week, I would have 7 photos to share of the process. And I didn't really keep up with that, but I did take a lot of photos along the way, and it is really helpful for me to see where a project starts and where it ends up. So I do challenge you to take photos if you can, just with your phone. They don't have to be amazing photos unless your goal is to practice photography, but taking photos really did help me. I also like to keep a values board on my phone, and this is just a little screensaver I have for when I look at my phone, I pick it up, I see these values in front of me, images that reflect things that I desire more of in my life, like family, creativity, reading, slowing down. You know, we all have different values. But once I pick up my phone, I can see those things right in front of me, and it's just this instant reminder. And so having that kind of in my face all the time was really helpful. I said a lot of this earlier, but getting my daughter involved in creating and doing it together was really helpful. So even if it wasn't like I was alone creating in my studio and had that alone time, even when we were together, like having her involved really made a difference. So for you, that could even be having a friend that you created with, or a sewing group, or a painting class, whatever it is. If you do things in community, I can attest to how it strengthens you and you can encourage each other and grow in a deeper way because you're doing it alongside someone else. And lastly, something that really helped me was focusing on the process and not just the end goal. That would be if I made a mistake or something I wasn't too happy with, then I would intentionally choose to go back, start over, kind of fix what it was so that I could continue, and kind of taking that longer route. I think that really made a huge difference, and just focusing on the quality more than the quantity. In the end, that taught me more than just creating a bunch of things that I can show off and have on display. It was just, man, I can look at each of these projects and I've learned so many things along each of them because I took my time. I had to go back, I had to start over, or it was challenging and I had to troubleshoot these things. So quantity over quality always. So creating something every day is something I'm going to continue this year and probably every year to come. So if you'd like to join me, you can click this next video to ask some ideas to get started.